right, Shalom. I want to give all praise, honor, and glory to Yahweh Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham Rakak Wadash. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone who taught me this truth. Shalom to the hopeful elect. I'm back with another quick lesson through the Holy Spirit, the Rakak Wadash. All right. Before we get into this video here from the Young Turks, revealed Dr. Fauci was a huge liar. All right. And we warned you, man. Okay. Woe unto all you people who trusted in this devil, who took them damn jabs. All right, and we're going to go down memory lane real quick, too. All right, because remember, we lost channels behind this, doing videos on this topic, warning you, okay, letting you know what was in it, not to trust this man, okay? So a lot of channels were lost, flagged, taken down, okay? A lot of content was, wiped away. Behind us, simply warning you not to trust the devil. Okay? And some of us got our channels back after they had, put this decree out back in 2025. Last year, all right, YouTube will restore channels banned for COVID and election misinformation. All right? And the reason why they were banning all those channels back then is because people were telling the truth. Okay? What was going on, what was in it. Okay? They were lying about the death rates back then. Okay, so now all this stuff is coming home. The chickens are coming home to roost, as they say. Man, the truth is out there, and now people are looking stupid. Okay, a lot of people took, 3, 4, 5 booster shots, and the different companies who had the jabs and whatnot. You see what I'm saying? So it's just a bad look all the way around, man. So we're going to go down memory lane before we get back to this video here, man. All right? Because at the end of the day, never trust thy enemy, man. This is the devil that the Bible speaks of. All right? And now all these people regret for not listening. All right? This is the book of Ezekiel chapter 33 and verse 33. And it reads, it says, "And when this cometh to pass, lo, it will come. Then shall they know that a prophet have been among them," right? NLT. "But when all these terrible things happen to them," man. "But when all these terrible things happen to them, as they certainly will, then they will know a prophet has been among them," right? Let's go back to memory lane here, right? Top insurance analysis says 600,000 Americans per year are dying from the you-know-what shots, okay? And remember, I posted this 6 years ago on my other channel, GMS Upon Precepts. This is from 6 years ago, right when we were dealing with the demic, right? When they were taking videos down left and right, flagging channels,
Dr. Fauci, Bill Gates, they're pushing this mandated vaccine. What would happen if they were successful in this current vaccine schedule and in mandating it?
If they were successful in mandating it for everyone, at least 50 million Americans would die, probably from the first dose.
That is incredible. And they know this. You're saying that they know this.
Know this, because those are the contaminant, those are the vaccine injured. 50 million Americans have the gamma retroviruses we discovered that were coming through vaccines in a contaminated blood supply. And these are the clinical symptoms we're seeing. And so they are going to bury the evidence and kill the victims, and call it COVID-19. This is what, I'm trying to say. They know this. And that's why he's in such a hurry to do it. Once it's in there, you can't get it out of there. And these are the victims. These are our military. These are our first responders. These are our lab workers and our healthcare workers. They will be the first victims. And
I mean, this is criminal.
It is criminal. There are 100 vaccines on the schedule and 110 planned, and never have they been tested together. And when they combine them, they combine the contaminants. They add more contaminants because, for instance, there's a vaccine called Twinrix, hepatitis A and hepatitis B. They don't develop them together, which is the right way to purify them. They just make one, make the other, and throw the whole gamish in you. They never look. at what the interactions are. They don't, never do we consider the blood pressure medicine and all the other medicines that the elderly are on. No elderly person should ever get a vaccine of any kind. In fact, nobody should get a vaccine of any kind if they want to be healthy in this country. And that's what I hope President Trump will just, a 5-year moratorium on all vaccines until the unvax study, till every safety test is done, everything. And that'll take a lot longer than 5 years. And you know what we'll get? We'll get healthy kids. We'll get our lives back. We'll realize that we're not healthy. People don't make people sick.
There you go. So these devils, all right, going back to Fauci, okay, just like the rest of them, they all knew this. They knew the side effects. They had everything documented. All right, they knew this the whole time. All right, and they lied to the so-called American people, and millions of people dropped dead behind this thing.
And that's why he's
okay. Millions of people died behind this, man. All right, you go to the channel. We always make reference of what's his name, the Godfather, Stanley Plotkin. Okay, you can look that up on YouTube in the interview, and he's basically telling you what was inside these shots, man, that people didn't even care to put inside their bodies. All right, so think about the millions of people who've died from this point when they first introduced it to this time now. Okay, this man is responsible for millions of deaths, right?
Saying, who the fuck do you think you were for doing that? It is a total disgrace what you did to this country. Those policies were put in place because you had moronic politicians that listened to the words of a megalomaniac who was more interested in having met a Kardashian than the suffering of the American people. There is no defense of what you did. You may have had a 50-plus year legacy of public service, but it ends in total and complete disgrace. So let me ask you an opportunity to answer one question. Will you apologize, just apologize, to the people who you harmed through your actions? Will you say, do you have the dignity to just say you're sorry?
On the advice of counsel, I respectfully decline to answer based upon my rights under the Fifth Amendment to the Constitution.
It's no secret why you have to hire the...
Hey, that's the devil. All right, no remorse. All right, they set millions of people up to die, bro. You can't make this up. And we've seen the highlight reels throughout the years, man. The soccer players, basketball players just having heart attacks out of nowhere, dropping dead on the middle of the court, middle of the field. Children dropping dead. News reporters that took it just falling out on camera. People dying, man. And this devil has no remorse. You see? So like we say, this is the devil that the Bible speaks of, man. He don't care. And they're not going to be charged, all right? The scriptures say that, right? Matter of fact, let's finish it out,
You're sorry.
On the advice of counsel, I respectfully decline to answer based upon my rights under the Fifth Amendment to the Constitution.
It's no secret why you have to hire the biggest dirtbag attorney on the planet, because of what you did. I hope you're paying him well. And I hope that one way or the other, somewhere, sometime, you answer for your crimes.
There you go. Zechariah 11:5, right? I was thinking about that. They hold themselves not guilty. Okay? Zechariah 11:5, and it reads, it says, whose possessors slay them and hold themselves not guilty. You see that? So Fauci and the rest of these devils are not going to be held guilty for what they've done. Okay? Of course they're going to get off. Of course he's going to get away. Okay? This is his kingdom. This is his heaven. Right? They make the rules. They can break the rules. They're not bound by their own laws. Okay? This man got away with cold murder. All right? Had you put pretty much poison in your body, AIDS, aborted fetuses, crab blood. All right, you could look all this shit up. Back then, people thought we were crazy. They thought we were making this shit up, right? But the devils knew that they were guilty. This is why they were flagging channels. This is why they were removing videos, okay, removing content, punishing people for speaking out against this, because they knew what it was. They knew that they had got caught, and now it's all coming back to bite their ass, man. It's over, you know.
This came out of a 19-year-old girl's nose. She had 2 shots, and what this is caused by is spike proteins, graphene oxide, and other heavy metals in the body.
Wow, man.
Because this is the very first time that a United States State Funeral Director Association president or former president has come out to talk about these unusual white fibrous clots that embalmers with 20 or 30 years of experience have never seen in their corpses before until the years of COVID and the COVID vaccines. In my latest worldwide survey, it was about 1 out of every 5 corpses had this phenomenon in them. What are you seeing, Chris?
Tom, I would say it's a little bit higher than that. I've been seeing it in probably 30 to 40% of each and every body that I embalm, but more so, and I know we chatted about this before, what I've been seeing is a very, very poor distribution of our fluid to the lower extremities and the extremities below the elbow. And that pretty much means that there is a resistance within the arterial system that is preventing that fluid from actually delivering its payload, if you will. And the sizes of the clots that Tom just showed are actually small to what I've been seeing. They've been the size of the arteries that have been coming out. You can't ignore this stuff. You really can't. These are foreign bodies that we have never come across, or at least I've never come across in the 10 years that I've been a funeral director and embalmer. But it's a serious problem that needs to be addressed and looked into. And to turn a blind eye on it for whatever reason, whether it's an agenda or what have you, is a big problem, because who knows if these are causing these rapidly progressing cancers, these heart attacks or strokes that a lot of folks who are younger in age are experiencing. It's something that needs to be pursued.
See? Though his words were smoother than butter, war was in his heart. Okay? Matter of fact, let's get that real quick. All right, Psalms 55. Okay, this is Psalm 55 and 21, and it reads, it says, the words of his mouth were smoother than butter, right? You know, get the shot. You know, we got to slow the spread. Okay, you so-called Negro, Latino, Native Americans, get it first. Okay, we can slow the spread. We can make it go away. Right? You don't have to get it if you don't want to. Remember all that shit? Then they got aggressive. You know, you need to get it. You know, we'll give you you'll get free cheeseburgers and fries. We'll give you a scholarship, a new Ford F-150. You know, they were tempting and enticing people to get it. You see, this man is the devil, man. Okay, though it says the words of his mouth were smoother than butter, but war was in his heart, man. All right, he was planning to unalive your ass the whole time. Okay, it was all part of the plan to depopulate. Okay, but war was in his heart. His words were softer than oil, yet with a drawn sword. See that? NLT. His words are smooth as butter, but in his heart is war. His words are soothing as lotion, but underneath are daggers, man. You can't trust him, man. Okay, and he showed you that he showed you this time and time again. Okay, now it's too late. Millions of people have died, man. All right, and people that took it, you know, that are still alive now, having all types of, health complications and things like that, man. Okay, it's all out here now. Okay, C-19 vaccines may be causing cancers, experts say, right? real quick. Let's just do a brief summary, and we'll play another video, and then we'll get to the main video. Okay? The devil's a liar. All right? And they knew the side effects. They knew the complications from years ago before this was even released. They knew exactly what was going to happen. Okay? Context. A June 3rd hearing in Washington hosted by Senator Ron Johnson, representative of Wisconsin, explored claims regarding a potential link between the M to the R and A C-19 vaccines and cancer. Political perspective. Senator Johnson argued that the public should be warned about potential dangers without waiting for definitive proof, right? And we were the ones that were giving you the dangers way before all of this came out. We told you back then, 6 years ago, all right, to not get that shit in your body. Okay? And they set up these goofy ass rappers and pastors to sell you out to go get it. I remember you had the what was the infamous one, the Vax That Thing Up. They had Juvenile remix that old school song. All right, the dumbass black bitches was twerking and talking about getting the JAB. It was just madness. Okay, Christian pastors were endorsing it. It was all over the radio, all over the TV commercials. All right, people were pushing it on TV shows. They went hard to get people to get this thing, man. And now look. Testimonies raising concerns. Dr. Angus Dalglish, the oncology professor, testified that he has seen patients unexpectedly develop cancer after receiving the M to the R and A C-19 vaccines, and believes that the technology likely played a significant role. Dr. Wafkif El Dinery, the Cancer Center director, stated that the spike protein present in both the virus and vaccine could suppress genes that prevent cancer. He noted that numerous publications showing cancer developing shortly after vaccination or infection. See? People got messed up right away. Dr. Asim Malhotra, the cardiologist, warned that current evidence suggests millions may be, quote, clear and present danger of premature cardiovascular disease and cancer. So you go, man. Right? These devils destroyed millions of people.
The COVID shots increase your risk of 7 major cancers: bladder, breast, colorectal, thyroid, gastric cancer. There was 8.7 million people in both of these studies, and they compared vaccinated to unvaccinated. So the vaccinated are getting more cancers. We have all the case reports published. People get these shots, and then a day later, sometimes a week later, they get massive tumors, or the cancer starts to spread everywhere in the body. CDC Wonder data, official government data, shows that excess cancer deaths have shot straight up right after the mass vaccination campaigns. There's been hundreds of thousands, or over 100,000 excess cancer deaths in the United States from the shots. It appears the mass mRNA injection programs were one of the largest carcinogenic exposures in history.
Yep, you should have listened. All right, you people should have took heed, man. Right, let me get that too. Sirach, before we get that in Sirach 11, let's go to Sirach chapter 5. Okay. Real quick. This is no joke. Okay, Sirach chapter 5 and 7. And it reads, all right, Ecclesiastes chapter 5 or Sirach chapter 5 verse 7 says, make no tarrying to turn to the Lord, Yahweh Shem Yahushai, and put not off from day to day. For suddenly shall the wrath of the Lord, Yahweh Shem Yahushai, come forth, and in thy security thou shalt be destroyed and perish in the day of vengeance, right? This is part of that, man. Okay? The Lord sent his men out there, his prophets, to warn you. That's what I said. Woe unto all you people who didn't listen. Now you're suffering for it, man. Now you're paying the price. Okay? This is no joke, man. People got all types of health complications behind this thing. Millions of people have passed, all right, from taking this JAB. All right? So this devil Fauci and many others that was behind him in the pushing of this jab campaign are just as guilty as he is. Okay? Never trust thy enemy, man. Let's go and play a little bit of that, and we'll grab that in that Sirach 12. Okay? Dr. Fauci was a huge liar.
Anthony Fauci, and now I'm beginning to wonder. So I was a big believer in Dr. Anthony Fauci, and now I'm beginning to wonder. So I don't think it means that everything he said was wrong at all, but we now know that he did lie on some very important matters, and that he apparently had a giant ego and was obsessed with how he was perceived in the media. The release of his diaries have proved a little bit devastating. We've got the receipts for you now with Anna.
Let me just begin this by saying that the one thing that I think the conservative Americans were correct about, especially as it pertained to the pandemic, was questioning authority and questioning our institutions. When the pandemic began, I had too much trust in our institutions. I have now switched over to having zero trust in our institutions. And when you have zero trust in our institutions, you're more likely to land at the accurate information, okay? This information that we now have, thanks to details of Fauci's diary being released, is beyond infuriating. And in fact, I think he should be prosecuted for it.
See? You should have listened, man. And right here in this video, you know, you got rich when people were dying, man. These devils made millions and billions behind this shit, man. Off of the death of millions of people. Billions. All right? Right in your face, man. Okay? Sirach 12 and 10, it says, never trust thy enemy, for like his iron rusteth, so is his wickedness, right? And you can't get rid of the rust. All right? It's not going to go away. Verse 11, though he humble himself and go crouching, yet take good heed and beware of him, man. All right? And we warned you countless of times to beware of this devil, to be wary of him, to watch him. You know? And thou should be unto him as if thou hadst wiped a looking glass, and thou should know that his rust have not been altogether wiped away. Again, you can't get rid of the rust, just like he can't get rid of his wickedness, man. This is who he is. Okay, these devils set up the whole world behind this shit, man. And the people who didn't take it are like the video that came out that went viral. The people who didn't take it are the real winners, the real champions, man. That didn't bend. Okay, that didn't break when they were trying to, you know, put pressure on people to get this damn JAB. Because remember, when it first came out, they were saying the people who didn't take it were the ones that were actually spreading the virus and all that bullshit. And people bought into that propaganda. And that caused division within families and friends in the household, man. You know, that was a wild time, man. You see?
Okay, I don't know that I'd go that far, but I will tell you this. So we're going to give you the details, but as you go through this, keep in mind, and there's one important detail I really want to highlight here, the difference between scientists and the government. Fauci here was acting more in the role of the government rather than the scientists. In fact, he buried scientific findings. What it actually makes me the angriest about what Fauci did is how he accidentally, I guess, smeared scientists.
Prosecuted, Cenk, prosecuted. Let me just explain something. When we talk about gain of function research, when scientists in these biolabs that are sprinkled across the globe that we fund, what do you think we are funding that research for? Do you think we're funding gain of function research because we want to make sure we keep the global population safe from viruses? No, they're developing biological weapons. That's what they're doing. That's what that is. We are funding that. And there was a lab leak that Anthony Fauci knew about and he buried it.
Yeah.
Okay, prosecuted.
Yeah. Look, I don't know that it's just for biological weapons. I think
Come
that the scientists involved, I'm sure some of them earnestly believe, hey, we've got to develop some sort of defenses for these viruses when they come. But gain of function research is very dangerous and very questionable. So let's give you the facts on what happened, and then we'll discuss more.
So this is all due to Senator Rand Paul publishing 1,100 pages from Dr. Fauci's diary, which, let's just pause, diary? Diary, okay, you're a grown man, okay, you got a diary where you incriminated yourself, but fantastic. So,
but just real quick on that, if you're wondering why do we even care about his diary, why are we concerned? He was keeping notes so that he could publish a book and et cetera, et cetera.
Good job.
Yeah.
Good job.
And that's more self-aggrandizement, wealth, et cetera.
Yes. So anyway, 1,100 pages of his diary were released by Senator Rand Paul. Fauci is going to testify before Congress tomorrow, and so Rand Paul puts this out ahead of that testimony. Fauci was the former director of the National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Diseases, and the pages basically cover his thoughts and what was happening internally from December of 2019, so at the very beginning of the virus, COVID-19 pandemic, through his retirement 3 years later in December of 2022. Now, one of the most damning revelations, if you ask me, had to do with the origins of the virus. The prevailing theory that we heard over and over again was that COVID developed naturally in animals before making the jump to humans through a Chinese wet market. We all remember that. Well, that was a lie, and Fauci knew it. So on February 1st, 2020, his diary records a meeting with a dozen prominent virologists in which only 2 were willing to credit the natural origins theory. The rest suspected the virus might have been created artificially, not least because a leading scientist in Wuhan, Shi Zhengli, was known to engage in the sort of gain-of-function research that could produce such a result. So, Cenk, let's just pause for a second. If this is the type of virus that would not develop naturally, why would you want humans to artificially create it? I mean, unless you're looking to create biological weapons.
Yeah, so two things in that.
Yeah, the jab itself was a biological weapon. All right, this is why many people have been put to death. All right, and people fell for it. Many people fell for it, man. They bought into the propaganda. They trusted the system, and now it backfired. Like she was saying, now she no longer trusts the system, but you should have never been doing that in the first place, man. Again, never trust thy enemy. Let's read some more. Okay, Sirach 12:11. Though he humble himself and go crouching, yet take good heed and beware of him. And thou should be unto him as if thou hadst wiped the looking glass, and thou should know that his rust have not been altogether wiped away. See? Set him not by thee, lest when he have overthrown thee, he stand up in thy place, neither let him sit at thy right hand, lest he seek to take thy seat. And thou at last remember my words and be pricked therewith, right? So you were supposed to take heed to what the Lord was saying. Don't have him around you. Don't trust him, And what did the people do? And now they're paying for it. Who will pity a charmer that is bitten with a serpent, or any such as come nigh wild beasts, right? So yeah, you trusted in the serpent, man, and now you were bitten, right? It says, so that one goeth to a sinner and is defiled with him in his sins. Who will pity, right? Who's gonna pity you? You see, right? So who's gonna feel sorry for you, man? Okay, who's going to pity you? Right? So that one goeth to a sinner and is defiled with him in his sins, who will pity? For a while he will abide with thee, but if thou begin to fall, he will not tarry. An enemy speaketh sweetly with his lips, but in his heart he imagined how to throw thee into a pit. Right? And this is what they did. Right? He will weep with his eyes, but if he find opportunity, he will not be satisfied with blood. If adversity come upon thee, thou shalt find him there first. And though he pretend to help thee, yet shall he undermine thee. And that's what they did. All right. This is what humanity needs. This is how we're going to slow the spread. This is how we're going to stop the virus. All that bullshit propaganda they were putting out there during that time. All them pretending to help the people. right? But it was really set up to destroy the people. And they did just that. He will shake his head and clap his hands and whisper much and change his countenance. Hey, you can't trust this man. All right? But it's too late now. Okay, the damage has been done. All right, let's play a little bit more. All right, the point's been made.
One is, I agree with you on the substance of it, meaning that even if it's true that the scientists working on it, or maybe even the government official that ordered it, cared to create a defense against viruses, artificially creating a virus to try to find a defense to it is not a good idea.
No, it doesn't make sense.
Okay,
it doesn't make sense.
So no, I get some of the logic of it, but it is taking extraordinary risk, and it's creating risk that you didn't have before to maybe deal with a risk you might or might not have later. So if I just look at it from a logical basis, I would not take that kind of risk, even if you meant well. Okay, so that is a very controversial thing to do, and we never discuss it. We never have a debate about it.
Right.
The government just orders it and says, "Yeah, go ahead, take that wild risk," and that wild risk costs the economy an enormous amount.
So many people died,
and not just.
There you go. So many people died. All right, and they tried to say that this story here on the right was falsified. Nah, this is the truth. You know, they had they tried to use the what you call the thing where they verify whether the story is true or not. But we know this is true when it came out, because you had all types of alternative media, you know, scientists from different countries speaking out about this thing, and they were doing their best to cover up the stories, to take the videos down, to remove pages. Millions of people died, man. Okay? Isaiah 32:6. Isaiah 32:7, it says, the instruments also of the churl are evil. He devised wicked devices to destroy the poor with lying words, even when the needy speaketh right. NLT, the smooth tricks of scoundrels are evil. This whole C-19 thing was a smooth trick, a scam. They plot crooked schemes, right? And they made millions, billions off this, right? They lied to convict the poor, even when the cause of the poor is just, you see? So it was just, this whole thing, this whole campaign was one big ass setup, which millions of people fell for, man.
The economy, but my God, across the world, millions of people died because of that risk. So that is not a small thing, it's a giant thing. Number two, that the quote that Anna read you is the one I'm referring to. The scientists actually say, no, we don't think that it was natural. We think it was man-made. And Fauci goes, shut up, scientists.
Yeah.
I am the chief scientist. Jay Capper, Dana Bash, have me on, which by the way is, well, I'll talk about later. He was huge buddies with the media. And they have him on and they pretend he's speaking for all the scientists.
I know, I totally
when in reality, he squashed what the scientists said and said the opposite.
Yes.
And took two, and only two out of dozens of scientists who said, yeah, I guess it could have been, you know,
a wet market.
You know, naturally, that it came about naturally. And guys, it was right next to the Wuhan virus lab. What kind of schmuck thinks, oh yeah, it naturally came about right next to the Wuhan virus lab. In fact, that's the first thing that we broke on. Who says we were covering it, we're like, wait, this one doesn't make sense.
So, okay, look, question everything, okay? Question literally everything, because get a load of this. So only 2 of the scientists were willing to entertain the theory that it was a naturally occurring virus, naturally developed virus that jumped from animal to human, okay? Fauci's pushing the wet market theory aggressively, openly, and in public. What was he writing about privately? I take you to his journal entry, January 26, 2020. January 26, 2020, that early on in the pandemic. The diary suggests that by January 26, 2020, Dr. Fauci believed the virus had not originated in the Wuhan wet market, often identified as the source by natural origin advocates. This didn't stop him and allies from painting skeptics of the natural origin theory as politicized cranks and conspiracy theorists.
So 2 things about that. Number one, I'm so done with the phrase conspiracy theory. I looked back to see when it became popularized, and it became popularized right after the JFK assassination, that anyone who questioned the official government story would be called crazy by insinuating they were conspiracy theorists.
I give every conspiracy theory.
Yeah, and everything that's coming out now has been facts. All right, you know that word doesn't even hold weight anymore, man. Everything that's being exposed, all right, throughout the time has been true. You know how the things how have the things of Esau been sought up, man? He can't hide no more. Obadiah. You know, and this all correlates with his downfall, right? It says Obadiah 1:6. How are the things that Esau searched out? How are his hidden things sought out? Right? He can't hide himself, man. So-called conspiracies are coming out to be facts. Okay. His secrets, everything, man, it's all being exposed. Whistleblowers, there's truth. All right? It's over for him. Okay?
Is to listen. I listen. I mean, it doesn't mean I'm going to believe everything they say, but I'm not going to just automatically dismiss them anymore.
No,
Sorry.
because we have an entire government, an entire media infrastructure that is now saying that if you ever question the government, you're a conspiracy theorist and a wacko. Okay, so then that's it. I'm done with that line of thinking. And look at Fauci abusing it. And look, if we're on Fauci's side, as we were, okay, I want you to think about it this way. Millions of people died in that virus. Imagine that it wasn't a guy that we were told was on our side. It was a Trump appointment, right? Some lackey that he picked that was in the same position as Fauci. And then a virus breaks out of the lab through incompetence, kills millions of people. And that same guy then buries the news, even though he knows that it came out of that virus. You would say, wait, why did he bury the news? Why wasn't he honest about this? What was it that he did and our government did that he wanted to cover up by pretending that it didn't come from that virology lab, right? You would be very, very skeptical about a Trump appointee who caused these millions of deaths or covered up the real cause of these millions of deaths. You'd be like, why? Why did he do that? And if you're not on Trump's side and you're on the other side, or whichever side you're on, you should always question, why did they do that?
Be on the side of truth. I think the biggest mistake I made personally, so I'll take responsibility for it. When you're so partisan brained and you've convinced yourself that, you know, one side is always wrong and one side is always right, you're gonna make mistakes because either side is never 100% right or 100% wrong. So honestly, and look, part of the problem was also the fact that when the virus broke out, the president of the United States was Trump, and the way that he was communicating about the virus did not inspire much confidence. You get what I'm saying?
Of course.
So it was a crazy time. Everyone's panicking. No one knows what's going on. But let me get to more of what Fauci wrote about in his journal. So he loved to go after his critics, and in fact, in his journal, almost boasted about how aggressively he'd go after his critics. On July 14th, 2020, he tried to squash a skeptical memo about his policies by Journal contributor Stephen Moore. I told White House aide Alyssa Farah that the White House, either Meadows or the President of the United States, need to shut up Stephen Moore and stop his publication of Dr. Wrong paper. If he does not, the entire academic community will dump all over the President of the United States.
Yeah, what else do you need to hear, man? All right, this man is the fucking devil, all right? We warned y'all, and now look what's happening, all right? Now everybody's talking about how they were done wrong and how they lied, and everybody's just so appalled, they can't believe it, man. But we told you the truth back then. To never trust thy enemy, man. Okay? Now Esau's being exposed, he can't hide no more. All right, he's being grilled about it, okay? And all these small hats are responsible, all right, for putting millions of people to death behind this shit. It is what it is, all right? You mocked the prophets, you were warned, and now it's too late. Shalom.